it's impossible to be even out of your parents' house. I think your question should be what's wrong with Singaporeans.
Well, I tend to see that bifurcation, the distinction between whether it's overpopulation and overcrowding is something rather artificial, because from the average citizen's point of view, it's the daily routine that he or she has to go through. And if you think about it, the effects are beginning to show, with the frightful breakdowns of the MRT system on a frightful regularity. I think that's all got to do with this overpopulation, if you will. And then you mentioned also about healthcare services.
Is it overpopulation or inadequate preparedness?
I think it's both. If you recall, former Minister George Yeo, when they were talking about putting up dormitory housing for foreign workers in his constituency, and there was a big uproar within the constituents themselves, and he came up and he said, we should have a master plan to cater for this influx of foreign workers. I was quite taken aback. You would have thought that before you open the floodgates, you would have in place a plan to be able to accommodate the increase in population, but apparently there wasn't. And then when you take into consideration also, in 1991, when they had the next lap, you remember former Prime Minister Goh Chok Tong had said that, well, we can comfortably house 4 million people. And then years later, they said 6.5 million. The former minister, Ma Bao Tan, said 6.5 million. And then Mr. Lee Kuan Yew then said, well, he disagrees with that number. He says 5 to 5.5 million. And then current Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong then said we should have a target of about 6 million. And then just earlier, the White Population White Paper said 6.9 million. So you can see that...
But that was a tentative figure, right?
Of course. But the problem is that you would have expected the government to have at least a review of what this island can maintain, can accommodate, and then let's let in the population accordingly. There was a survey, an international survey, a huge survey done with Singaporeans being the unhappiest people in the world.
It's funny because there was also another survey that said we're the happiest people in the world, right?
Yeah.
I'm quite puzzled by that. Those two
but this one was massive. It was done by Gallup, I believe, and they surveyed about 148 countries all in. Mm-hmm. And it's really didn't come as a surprise, because Singaporeans, for consistency, you have other surveys as well showing Singaporeans a very highly stressful place to live in.
Is that the case, or is it because we're all conditioned grumblers and we tend to grumble over everything?
Well, I suppose you could we could push the buck into this as the Singaporeans, but at the same time, I don't think this is something that we should take lightly. Last year we had 467 suicides, the highest recorded number in 20 years.
In Singapore, but how about compared to other countries?
But per capita, I think that we stand out as well. Okay. But we're talking about compared to relatives within this country itself. This is the highest number in 27 years. That was 30% jump from the previous is 2011. So there is something in there that I think merits looking into in greater examination.
But how do the young people feel about it? Do you feel, as a young man in Singapore, do you feel that the environment is very cramped?
There's no denying. When you go to a shopping center on a weekend or Friday, there's definitely more people. There's definitely you can definitely notice the difference even when you take public transportation at peak period. Yeah, because I use public transport on a daily basis, the bus and the MRT. So I'm the average Singaporean, I would say, and in the mornings there are times where you have to wait for a second bus, which I didn't experience as a student maybe 5-7 years ago. Yeah, to have to wait for a second bus. So there is a sort of you notice the difference for sure. But I think what's important, kind of what you mentioned about Singaporeans who tend to be grumbling, I think that's an important thing for young people. Instead of complain. Well, if you do complain, then perhaps you could come up with an idea to sort of improve the situation instead of festering that kind of a negative attitude among your youth, your peers. Yeah, I think that it's important to have a sort of to be constructive in what you're saying instead of, especially with the use of the internet now, people are, you know, free for all to air their opinions. But I do think it's important to stay positive, to stay constructive. Yeah.
But what are the, let's be specific now. Where are the areas that we feel the crowdedness in our daily lives?
So I'm saying that the sudden influx of the.
So where do you feel it?
I feel it in, of course, in the road where I drive, and then when I take MRT to work, and it's not like the usual.
But you've been to Hong Kong. Is that worse than Singapore? Or is it better?
Oh, it was, you know.
Okay.
And then of course being in New York, and then when the lunch crowd coming, because people are actually clouding at the same time, same place, you know what I mean? So all clouding in the same spot, so you feel the uneasiness.
So are we that bad, or are we that fussy?
To me, I still can live with it. I still can live with it, but of course I think we need to push up the infrastructure and open up faster so that we can accommodate.
Where do you feel it? Do you feel it at all?
No. Honestly, I think I agree with you, Kenneth, that Singaporeans complain a lot. Like you say, second bus. So what? Depending on the timing you take, we're all fixated by this 6.9 million figure. Tourism board brings in 12-13 million people every year into Singapore, including the existing population. You probably have 6.9 million people here already. Nobody is complaining. You forget about the 12 million that we bring in every year. These people are staying in Singapore, staying in the hotels, using the facilities. Where is the crowding? Where is the overcrowding? It's different from Hong Kong, as you say.
Yeah, but when we have 6.9 with the tourism addition, that will be more than 6.9.
That's a different
right?
issue altogether, but we are not talking about right now. You don't see overcrowding plus our 5.5 million, right? We have 5.5 million, plus the 12 million that we bring, or maybe 13 million that we bring in every year.
That's interesting.
Right? So when you add that, the numbers go up because these people still use space. So what are we complaining about? Maybe we can live on 6.5 million. The only thing that is in our disfavor is that Singapore is finite. You can't grow Singapore anymore. We are not a capital city in a big country where you can expand. Okay, like Beijing, you can expand out.
That's not true. You know, our fifth terminal will actually be built on the sea.
It's true. Limited. You can't go into Johor. All right, you can't go there. But it's finite. So the only thing is, this is our disadvantage. But 6.9 million people, yes, can we coop up and make sure they live happily with the provision of health services adequately, with the provisions of entertainment? It's very important. Today you see a lot more entertainment than our days because of the support of the tourism that's coming into Singapore. They generate a lot of new hotels, new eateries, and a better lifestyle. You enjoy much more than we in our old days. Where can we go in the old days?
We asked ourselves, why do we need a 6.9 million population?
To me, that's a figure that they throw out. It's a white paper that the government have decided and work on. I think there must be the finiteness of Singapore as a nation. That's all the land we got, and maybe 6.9 is the limit. Are we going to reach?
I've heard, but as I said, you know, I've heard the figures going up as high as 10 million. You see, the point I'm saying is, I think we've got got it the other way around. What I think we should be targeting at is the well-being of the people, the quality of life, the happiness of Singaporeans here, and then let that indicator be the driver of population size. Rather than us coming up, throwing up one figure, 6.9 million, everybody just runs headlong and trying to achieve that figure.
6.9 figure or 8 millions, you know, is just a number.
Sure.
To me, it's just a number. But it's a gradual changing or adapting it, educating the people, accepting it, different culture that we have not done. I don't think Singapore has any resources. The only resources is the people. So if we can educate these people coming in, I mean the quality people coming in, educating them, and these are our assets. I thought so, you know. This could be our assets. So I mean, we don't have oil, we don't have a plantation, we don't have a mineral, we don't have anything. So people are our resources.
So
our
human
assets.
potential is what we're building up, not the population itself.
I think yes. So the number is 6.9 or 5 or it doesn't matter. Okay, and it's a gradual change that my thought is we should ready for that.